The thunder of an approaching storm wasn't weather. It was the rumble of 24 iron horses, the sound signature of the Nightfall Reapers MC. They were trouble incarnate, rolling symbols of a life lived outside the lines. But tonight, they weren't looking for a fight. They were looking for a rescue. They were hunting ghosts. At the head of the pack was Kane, the president. His leather cut was faded, a testament to 2 decades of dust and defiance. His face, etched deep with scars and sun, told a story that could fill a library of bad decisions and hard-won victories. Tonight, the usual granite set of his jaw was overlaid with a cold, desperate fear. His son, Jax, was missing. Not just run off, but taken. The law had filed a report. They called it a runaway, a domestic situation, a low priority. Kane knew better. Jax, 16 years old, bright and too trusting, had been working for a summer job near the border town of Shadow Creek, a place where the official peace ended at the county line and a different kind of justice reigned. Jax had seen something he shouldn't have. He'd witnessed the slow, insidious rot of a human trafficking ring that preyed on the invisible, the undocumented, the forgotten, the vulnerable. And then he vanished. He saw them load the trailer, Reaper, Kane's sergeant-at-arms ghost, a man whose reputation preceded his shadow, had reported 2 days ago. He tried to call it in, but they clipped him before he finished the dial tone. They took the kid to the compound. We've verified the location. The compound was a derelict, heavily fortified ranch known locally as the Iron Cage, run by a ruthless syndicate that called themselves the Creek Dogs. These weren't honorable outlaws. They were bottom feeders, men who violated the unspoken code that even the most hardened criminal respected. Children are off limits. The Nightfall Reapers had their own code, one forged in blood and loyalty. It wasn't written in a clean book of statutes, but in the grime and grease of their history. Protect your own. Honor the innocent. Never kneel to a liar. The world saw their violence, their drug runs, their brawls. They missed the underlying structure, the grim, self-imposed justice that kept their territories stable and, ironically, often safer than those patrolled by the understaffed local police. When the legal system proved impotent, the Reapers stepped in, applying what they called road justice. Tonight, justice was coming at 90 miles an hour. The formation split as they reached the dense, dry scrubland outside Shadow Creek. Kane signaled a halt near a hidden service road. The air was thick with the scent of pine, dry earth, and the metallic tang of coming violence. "Status, Ghost?" Kane's voice was a low growl, controlled but vibrating with tension. Ghost pointed to a barely visible dirt track leading into the darkness. One main entrance, heavily wired, tripwires, motion sensors, 2 watchtowers, each with 2 men, high-powered rifles, and a back service gate near the canyon wall, old, rusted. They rely on the canyon being a deterrent, think no one is crazy enough to climb it. How many inside? A dozen, maybe 15 Creek Dogs, plus the livestock, and my boy. Kane nodded slowly. His hands gripped the handlebars, the leather worn smooth. He remembered the night he pinned that patch on Jax's cut, a miniature of his own. He'd sworn then, in the eyes of the MC, that he would guide his son through this life, protect him from the worst of it. Now the worst of it had found him anyway. The plan was simple, reckless, and quintessentially Reaper. Scatter, the newest member, a former military demolition expert trying to escape his past, would create a diversion at the main gate using a localized EMP burst. The ensuing chaos would draw the bulk of the Creek Dogs' defense to the front. While the noise and confusion reigned, Kane, Ghost, and 3 trusted riders, Viper, Saint, and Grinder, would scale the canyon wall and breach the service gate, silent as shadows. "Viper, you're on the towers." "No hesitation," Kane instructed, his gaze locking with the younger man's. "Ghost, Grinder, you secure the perimeter and neutralize any outside runners. Saint, you're with me. We find Jax. We find the other kids. And we bring them all home." Viper looked down, his lips pressed into a thin, grim line. "And the dogs, Prez?" Kane's eyes were cold as winter ice. They violated the code. They have forfeited the right to walk this earth. They stripped their bikes of anything that could rattle, checked the action on their weapons, and pulled their balaclavas up, transforming from men into grim, faceless figures of retribution. The silence before the storm was deafening. Suddenly, a voice crackled over the radio, high-pitched and panicked. "Prez, they're moving them! The trailer just pulled out of the East Bay. I saw jacks being loaded. They're driving them straight to the border exchange point. They're cutting their losses." The plan shattered instantly. There was no time for stealth, no time for the intricate diversion. The truck would be at the border in 20 minutes, gone forever. "Change of plans!" Kane roared, throwing off his balaclava. His fear transformed into pure kinetic adrenaline. "Ghost, take the main gate, blast it open, draw all the heat. I need 15 minutes, the rest of you with me. We take the bikes, we hit the highway, we intercept the transport." Ghost hesitated, his face shadowed by concern. "Too risky, Prez. You'll be exposed on the road. They'll be expecting a roadblock." "Then give them a spectacle," Kane said, already mounting his massive black Harley, the engine coughing to life with a primal throb. He looked at the Reaper emblem stitched into his vest, the image of the Grim Reaper on a roaring bike, its scythe ready to swing. This patch, this life, this loyalty, it had cost him everything, but it had also given him the only family he ever knew and the only moral structure he could abide by. He would trade it all for his son. "We ride, Reapers!" Kane yelled, wrenching the throttle open. The deep, guttural roar of the engines ripped through the quiet night, a promise of violence and salvation hurtling toward the highway. They were no longer ghosts. They were the coming storm. They were the last, best chance for a dozen lost souls and one terrified son. The cost? It didn't matter. Not for family, not for honor. The road justice had begun. The chase was a brutal ballet of speed and desperate maneuvering, under the unforgiving high beams of the Nightfall Reapers' motorcycles. Kane pushed his bike past its limit, the roar of the V-twin engine echoing his own frantic heartbeat. The target, a heavy, nondescript box truck, was visible a quarter-mile ahead, barreling toward the border checkpoint. The Creek Dogs, anticipating pursuit, had sent 2 armed escort vehicles, a heavily modified pickup truck in front and a battered SUV bringing up the rear. "Viper, take out the tail!" Kane's voice crackled over the comms, a raw, sharp command. "Saint, you and Grinder box the lead. I take the cab. Do not fire on the main truck unless absolutely necessary." The Reapers responded not with words, but with a sudden, coordinated surge of speed. They didn't need complicated hand signals. They had practiced this chaotic geometry for years. Viper, utilizing the superior agility of his lighter-framed bike, weaved expertly through traffic, closing the distance to the rear SUV. He didn't use a firearm. Road justice often preferred the visceral, inescapable impact of steel and muscle. With a terrifying precision honed by a lifetime on the road, Viper sideswiped the SUV's rear axle at full speed, sacrificing balance for leverage. The impact sent the SUV spinning violently into the median barrier, the sound of tearing metal swallowed by the highway noise. One down. Up ahead, Saint and Grinder flanked the lead pickup. The truck driver, realizing he was facing more than just police, tried to ram them. Saint, a rider known for his ice-cold control, stayed locked to the driver's side, while Grinder, roaring on the passenger side, reached out with a weighted chain, smashing the wing mirror. The 2 Reapers executed a perfect canyon pass maneuver. They boxed the truck in, forcing the driver to slow down or risk catastrophic damage. The threat of a deliberate, controlled crash was enough. The pickup swerved, losing momentum and sliding into the shoulder, immobilized. The road was clear. Only the transport truck remained, less than a minute from the borderline. Kane roared past the disabled vehicles, focusing every fiber of his being on the rear of the box truck. He knew the risks. If the Creek Dogs in the cab were truly desperate, they would deliberately crash the rig, sacrificing the hostages inside to escape their fate. But Kane had seen something else, something only a father looking for his son would spot. A fleeting movement, a small, pale hand pressing against a vent in the truck's back panel. Jax was alive, and he was signaling. As Kane pulled alongside the passenger window of the truck, The driver, a brute with dead, vacant eyes, snarled, brandishing a rusty pipe. Kane ignored him. He didn't want a clean takedown. He wanted a statement. He wanted the Creek dogs to know who had come for them. "This is the Nightfall Reapers MC," Kane shouted over the wind and the engine noise, his voice raw with fury. "You stop that truck now, or I swear to the devil I'll make you regret every breath you've ever taken." The driver laughed, a choked, maniacal sound, and slammed the wheel hard to the right, trying to push Kane into the guardrail. The close call sparked Kane's final act of desperation. He reached down and pulled the heavy, ornate Nightfall Reaper patch, his presidential patch, a symbol of his authority and his life, from his cut. He threw it violently through the open window, hitting the driver square in the face. It wasn't a distraction. It was a sacrifice. "You take the patch," Kane screamed, pulling back momentarily. "You take my life, but you give me my son." The driver, momentarily stunned by the sheer audacity and the symbolic weight of the flying leather, hesitated. That half-second was all Kane needed. He accelerated hard, drawing his own customized heavy-duty crowbar, a tool that had seen more use as a weapon than as a repair implement. He leaped off his seat, planting one boot on the truck's running board, hanging precariously from the cab. With a single mighty swing, he shattered the passenger window, reaching inside and grappling with the driver. The fight was fast, brutal, and terrifyingly efficient. Kane delivered a series of rapid, punishing blows, fueled by a parent's primal need. The truck swerved violently, tires screaming before the driver slumped, unconscious, on the steering wheel. Kane, now fully in the cab, slammed on the brakes. The box truck shuddered to a stop just feet from the border-crossing booth. Silence descended, broken only by the approaching sirens, the real law finally catching up, and the slow rumble of the other Reapers arriving. Kane stumbled out of the cab, adrenaline fading, his body aching but his eyes fixed on the rear door of the truck. He tore the rusted padlock off and yanked the doors open. Inside, illuminated by the highway lights, were a dozen terrified children and teenagers, huddled together like frightened mice. And among them, bruised but whole, was Jax. Jax saw his father, not the ruthless biker president, but simply Dad, covered in sweat and grime. He rushed forward. The embrace was fierce, a silent communication of relief and sacrifice. As the police swarmed the scene, sirens wailing, surrounding the Nightfall Reapers, Kane stood tall, shielding his son. An officer, a veteran cop who knew the score in this territory, approached Kane, his expression a mix of duty and quiet respect. He looked from the wrecked scene to the frightened children being carefully extracted from the truck, and finally his gaze landed on the stolen presidential patch lying forgotten on the passenger seat of the truck. "Kane," the officer said, his voice low, "you're in violation of parole. You caused a high-speed chase and you're carrying a weapon." Kane simply nodded, pulling Jax closer. "I know the cost, Detective. Take me in. But those kids, they get a free pass. Tell the world they were saved by ghosts." As the officer placed the cuffs on Kane's wrists, Jax watched, tears streaming down his face, the patch, the symbol of his father's life, still on the truck seat. Kane had traded his freedom, his leadership, and his entire identity as an outlaw for his son's safety and the lives of innocent children. The MC patch was gone, but his honor, his road justice, was eternally preserved. He walked toward the squad car, a convicted felon, yet an unexpected hero, the thunder of his brother's idling engines serving as his final defiant salute.